Hey guys, what is up? So a couple of months ago, 2 months ago actually exactly, I did a custom card contest and I ran it through my Discord and I had you guys all submit cards. And I had a lot of fun going through your cards and we made a video about it. A lot of you guys like that. I decided we're going to do a round two. We're going to do it again, only this time I actually offered up $200 as a prize pool for this. I decided, you know what? Custom cards are a lot of fun, and I want to, incentivize you guys to actually, put forward some really cool ideas. And so I decided to put down the $200, and you guys submitted your decks, and now we're gonna do effectively a second go at it. So this will be the custom cards submitted in the last 2 months. So here's how this is gonna work. We're gonna have 9 total award categories that cards can be nominated for. Of course, these are your guys' custom cards. And each one is going to have a winner, depending on which of those I particularly like the designs of, or the way the card works in the current card pool. I will be awarding those higher ranks, with the highest placement, first place for the entire prize, being given to the winner of the best overall set category, where you guys submit a full kind of like mini card set of 10 cards. Now you guys submitted over 700 cards for this custom card contest, and through all of the nominations I'm going to be giving out these awards. Now if you guys want to see more of the nominated cards, you can check them out in the linked in the pinned comment. I'll be sending you guys a list of kind of all the 30 that kind of like the top 30 or so that made it this far. But here are your winners. So the winner of the best follower category is going to go to Carnivorous Shoal by Sneak. This 3-mana 3/2 Bilgewater follower says, pick a card in hand to reveal on play, draw a card that costs 1 more than it. So this is a really cool concept because it effectively can act as a little bit of a soft tutor for specific decks. If you're looking for a kind of combo piece, it can draw you a unit or a spell as long as it's 1 cost more than what you're revealing to your opponent. This is really cool because it allows for a lot of deck building opportunities where you can basically try to play around trying to get a specific kind of card in your hand, and by revealing a card that costs 1 less to your opponent, you can draw it pretty reliably. This also gives the opponent really good counterplay because firstly, they can see which card you revealed, so they can see what mana cost of card you just drew, and in all likelihood they can probably predict exactly what it is depending on your deck. In addition to that, you have to reveal a card in order to play this, which is a bit of a payment. It's a bit of an extra price here because, of course, your opponent not only gets to know what you drew based on the mana cost of that card, but they also get to see one of the cards in your hand. Designs like this are my favorite because it allows for the game to have kind of like a higher consistency of combo. If you want to build a deck around getting a specific piece, you can make sure you're doing that much more reliably. But of course, the opponent has a lot of counterplay to this. They can see exactly what's in your hand, they can see like what you're drawing, and it allows them to react to that, which is really important. Cards that kind of increase the skill ceiling on both players' sides without being kind of like too over convoluted are really great, and this is a very simple but very effective design. All right, next up we've got the winner of the best spell category, which is Void Seeker by Leafy. Void Seeker is a 3-mana Shurima fast spell that simply says kill an enemy with vulnerable. I really like this. It's a really cool concept, and I'll say at this point, this card's probably a little too strong because of how Shurima has really good access to vulnerable. And I mentioned at this point that it's really important to note, I'm going to be mostly, like I did last time, giving extra points for cards that have good designs, and balance is important, but it will be kind of secondary, and it's okay for cards to maybe need like a little bit of a number tweak or an additional clause, because I really like the idea of conditional removal and enabling archetypes that kind of like didn't really exist before. For example, Shurima has a decent amount of semi-control-y tools. They have a lot of spells that can slow the game down and like trade off opponents' units, but they don't really make enough sense to run in a deck, right? Void Seeker takes an interesting concept, allows you to build kind of like an entire Shurima deck around the idea of controlling, and of course you're going to need to set it up, right? You can't just do it right away. It takes multiple actions and multiple cards to give an enemy vulnerable and then use Void Seeker on it. So for that, it ends up being pretty balanced. This card might have to be something like 4 mana just because the access that Shurima has to like high value vulnerable units is really high, but it's the kind of card that if it's enabling a unique archetype like a slower version of Shurima, actually might be a little bit more okay being stronger than it immediately seems. Kind of like how Ravenous Flock, even though it's like 1 mana, because it's kind of like the only good Noxus control card, kind of single-handedly enables the archetype while being super powerful, don't get me wrong, but is able to take an entire like region and give it a playstyle that it couldn't have seen without it, right? And I really like cards like that. That brings us to the third category, Best Landmark, and our winner, Temple of Shadows by Mist Assassin. This Ionia 1-mana landmark is, once I've seen you play 3 Ionian units with the same name, destroy me to draw 3 and grant all allied copies of that unit everywhere, +3/+3. This is a cute little gimmicky kind of idea. I like the idea of cheaper, less committal landmarks, and it's empowering a few different things at once. I mean, you can build this with decks like kind of counterfeit copies sort of things. You can build this with decks that have the ability to, recall units, of course, like an Ionian recall deck, because all you have to do is play through units from the same name from hand. They do have to be played, not summoned. And you can even use it with other things such as, I don't know, like just running a lot of cards at the same units with like predict and stuff like that. Now this card seems pretty hard to get off, but the payoff is pretty insane. I mean, a 1-mana draw 3 that also buffs units on your board is pretty huge, and I think that it enables like a bunch of unique archetypes in really nice ways. Overall, I like seeing landmark design that's a little bit less negative tempo. I think that's a really, really important direction, because too many landmarks just cost too much mana and set you behind to the point where it's going to be really hard for them to be competitive. I like landmarks that have either a cheaper mana cost or an immediate impact to the board, and Temple of Shadows enables a few kind of like gimmicky cute combos without going overboard. All right, the Best Rework category award is going to go to the Psyscout Rework by Cybercat. Psyscout is currently a card, it's a 3-mana 2/4 that predicts, and if you pick a landmark, it gains elusive. Psyscout is not a very, very good card, and it's got a lot of problems. The reworked version by Cybercat is a 3-mana 3/3 that when you predict, you play it, you predict, and if you pick a landmark, it draws it instead. This is a really nice rework. I mean, obviously the landmark archetype with Talia cards is pretty awkward, and that's for a lot of reasons. But this new and improved Psyscout would actually be able to help it a lot in a way that the old Psyscout couldn't. Old Psyscout was a very, very weird and honestly kind of failed card that's trying to help out the landmark archetype. I mean, it gives itself elusive, but the way it works doesn't really help out that much. I mean, you don't really want to be forced into picking a landmark every time just to get elusive. A 2/4 stat line on turn 3 is pretty awkward in Runeterra in a lot of ways. It doesn't really do as much, especially on an elusive body that's trying to deal damage. And elusives, most importantly, don't even really work with how landmarks want to work. Landmarks usually kind of want to like set up and, play a little bit slower and make sure they're getting their tools and getting their resources. Whereas the 2/4 elusive body was kind of useless before. In this case, being able to draw a landmark that you're finding, and with a 3/3 body, it's a very, very simple change, but makes the card a lot better at doing what it's kind of designed to do. All right, and at this point, we can start getting into the actual awards, because we're in the final 4 categories. Now, again, these are awarded not based on category, but based on how much I like this specific design in general. And 4th place is going to go to Alone in the Best Keyword category. Alone is a really unique keyword submitted by Chrono Mirage, which is an ally is alone when being the only battling ally or the only back row ally. Same for enemy, of course. That's just what alone means. So it's a really cool mechanic. I mean, we've seen stuff like this in other card games where, a unit might do something special if it was the only unit on your board, right? Well, in this case, I think Runeterra actually has a really cool opportunity to use this in ways that other card games don't, by virtue of having the dichotomy between like battling and non-battling allies, right? So for example, your unit and, alone could do a lot of different things depending on what the unit does, alone do X. But in this case, it's a really cool design. You can have an alone thing that triggers during combat when you attack with just a solo unit, which of course disincentivizes you from attacking with others, or a unit that wants to block and will do something special when it's blocked alone, right? A cool thing is if you have 2 units and, you attack with one of them, or if you block with one of them, they can both trigger alone if you're only attacking or only blocking with one of them. And you can even counter it with stuff like Challenger or Vulnerable, making them not alone anymore, right? It's actually a really cool concept, and I'd love to see this explored in Runeterra because it creates a lot of interesting scenarios that make you think about how much you want to attack with, how much you want to block, whether you want to play more units onto a board, or even specific deck building problems. And of course, this keyword would be super cool when Kha'Zix gets added to the game, because of course Kha'Zix from League has extra damage when dealing damage to isolated champions, and this is the same exact thing, right? Kha'Zix would use the alone keyword in this way. And I think it's a really cool idea. Taking third place, we have Tristana by Demon Swordsman in the most flavorful category. So this is a really cool card. So Tristana, of course, it's a little awkward because she just got revealed in real LoR. This was submitted before seeing that by, Demon. But in this case, it's a really cool reimagining about how Tristana could have been. This is a 2-mana 2/2 quick attack Bilge Bandle card, and when you attack with it, it deals 1 to the enemy blocking. If it kills it, deal 1 to the Nexus, and it levels up when you've activated skills 5 or more times. And skills, of course, being anything with that exact icon that does the, whenever you attack or whenever you get played, it's puts something on the stack from the unit, right? So this is cards like, you would probably use this with like Crackshot Corsair and Misfortune and Legion Saboteur, stuff like that, that puts skills on the stack. Tristana, when she levels, starts dealing 2 damage to the enemy blocking her, and when you slay a blocking enemy, deals 1 to adjacent enemies and the enemy Nexus. And this is really cool, and this just oozes flavor for how Tristana works in League of Legends. But that's not all. We've also got Tristana's champ spell, the 3-mana burst Buster Shot. Burst speed, remove an ally from combat, and it puts a skill on the stack, which is, it makes your ally that you just targeted strike the strongest battling enemy. This is super cool. I mean, it's exactly how Tristana's ultimate works in League. It kind of like knocks something away in this case, and will strike the strongest battling enemy. It also synergizes with Tristana because it puts a skill on the stack, so it can help level her up. Overall, I think my favorite thing about this, I mean, it really captures Tristana super well from League, especially her kind of like aggressive nature. But the coolest thing is her level 2. The fact that when you slay a blocking enemy, it deals 1 to adjacent enemies and the enemy Nexus. It's like the, the splash damage that she has when she kills things in League. But I think that would actually work really well in Runeterra. Positional effects, I think, are really cool in Runeterra as long as they are limited to in-combat effects. I think positional effects in Runeterra would actually be kind of a nightmare if you unlimited it, if it was just like, slow speed positional spells like dealing adjacent based damage at slow speed would not really be a good idea, because that would be really awkward. You can like reshuffle your board depending on your combat, and you'd have to be basically doing that just in case they had a positional spell. But positional kinds of effects that happen in combat, I think, are really cool, and Runeterra can use them super well, because of course you can choose the position, you can choose the attack order or the block order of every combat, right? And this is a really cool one that captures their flavor. And it's got a bit more nuance. It's a little asymmetrical, right? Because combat goes left to right, and this deals 1 damage to adjacent enemies, which means the enemy on the right is prone to potentially dying before combat. So you have to be kind of big brain in terms of attack sometimes, and make sure that your opponent wants to block with units that wouldn't be best given how Tristana's splash might go. All right, taking second place for $50 is Nunu and Willump by Jamono in the best champion category. Now this one's a treat. Nunu and Willump are basically a 6-mana 5/6, but at the start of the game, if you put this card in your deck, it actually splits into the 2 individual champions, Nunu and Willump, to create the Nunu and Willump in your deck. So you can effectively have extra champions in your deck. If you're playing Nunu and Willump, you're playing a 43 card deck. Now, when you have Nunu is the 1-mana 2/2. This is the boy that rides atop the Yeti, that is Willump. And whenever it attacks, you're bringing Willump 5 cards closer to your deck, right? It's kind of like bringing the closest Willump to the top of your deck. And if Willump is in the top 5 cards, draw him. Now, Willump is a 5-mana 4/5 Overwhelm, and when he attacks, you bring Nunu 10 cards forward in your deck, and also drawing if it's in the top 5. The cool thing about this is that they both level at the same time when they see each other in play, and they level up, they combine their stats and keywords, and you can do some really cool things with this. The leveled form, when it starts attacking, it gives other attacking allies +1 this round, and every round end, it either creates an absolute 0 in hand, or if you already have one, it amps its damage by 1. Absolute 0 is the ultimate from League, where, you know, it kind of freezes them in a circle. In this case, the spell Absolute 0 is a 4-mana slow, deal 1 to all enemies, then frostbite all enemies, and it can ramp up, right? Like if you wait a few turns on this, it'll be a deal 3 instead of deal 1, etc. For me personally, this is super cool. I would love more champions that have kind of like unique little mini quests like this. Like this is a really unique way to do a champion level up. It really fits how Nunu and Willemp are, you know, two individual characters in League, even though they're the same champion. And you can even do some cool things with giving it permanent buffs, right? Like for example, you can stack effectively buffs like regen or things that give plus attack, and you can even make temporary keywords into permanent keywords or temporary stats into permanent stats. And the same way you can do with Mask Mother, because when they combine, everything becomes permanent, right? So you can make sure that you're pulling the same one after you use a temporary buff. There's a lot of neat tricks to this one. But yeah, overall, for me, this is the best champion design, just because I love to see this kind of like unique level up condition that changes the way you have to think about these champion mini quests, right? And in this case, it's got synergy with some of Freljord's tools, like for example, Entreat would be pretty helpful in something like this, trying to get your champions together so that you can, you know, combine them and get the added benefit. But yeah, I mean, honestly, these could probably be a little bit stronger. Like Willem could probably have a couple of more stats, because this might be a little bit weak if it shipped exactly like that. But keep in mind, this is more of a design concept. Balance matters, but it's more about the raw design than anything else, and I love the design here. And that brings us to the top prize, $100, going to the best overall set category, which is the Galio set submitted by Douglas. Now, this is a really cool set that's doing quite a few things, so let's start with Galio. Galio is a 5-mana 8/8 immobile, of course Galio being kind of a living statue in League, and if you silence an ally, well, or specifically while you have a silenced ally, Galio himself is not immobile anymore. Keep in mind, immobile means it can't attack or block. Basically, it's literally useless. Galio will level up when you've silenced 4+ allies, but in and of himself, he's just kind of like a big, dumb stat stick. So the entire idea of this archetype is a lot of units that are effectively immobile themselves under various conditions, like these statues that you need to be able to kind of silence to make work. This fits really well into kind of like the lore and flavor of Demacia. It's actually, you know, I've been playing a lot of League recently, and I've noticed like Demacia, a lot of their things is like they kind of hate mages and they have all these like silences and stuff, right? But in Legends of Runeterra, they don't really have that in much of a way, right? Like they have I guess Purify. That's about it. So the idea is to play these kind of immobile statues. For example, the 1-mana Dilapidated statue. It's a 1-mana 4/4. It can't attack or block, but you can silence it with something like a Purify, or I mean, if you're running Targon, you can Equinox your own unit. You can use it as just like single combat fodder, if nothing else, but it's completely useless on its own unless you're combining it with another card. And the reason I love this so much is because A, it's a completely unique playstyle we haven't seen in Runeterra yet. B, it fits into Demacia's kind of like lore and like flavoring super well. And C, it's also kind of a completely different playstyle to one we've seen in Demacia. It kind of like takes Demacia into a bit of a different direction. It's also really cool how the other statues have different conditions to kind of like become living statues. For example, the 2-mana Petricite statue, which is a 5/5 immobile, says, I'm not immobile while you have full spell mana. This is kind of a crazy card, and the more I look at this card, the more I really love the concept behind this. Now there's a lot of ways that, you know, as an opponent, you can kind of like force mana out. Petricite statue, it can be a 5/5 non-immobile on turn 3, but only if you didn't play it on turn 2, right? It's kind of weird. Because you need to have sent the mana to spell mana first, and then you can't use the spell mana without this becoming a statue again, becoming immobile again. And this also ties really into, you know, how Demacia wants to kind of be a region about like not playing spells too. Now, overall, if you're looking at these cards, this expansion is probably a little bit too strong in terms of power level, and that's something that I'm probably half you guys are thinking right now. You're probably typing in the comments, guy, like, how did this win? Like, this is such a ridiculous, overpowered deck. It's probably a little too strong in terms of power level, although probably a lot more limited than it immediately seems, because there's only so much you can do with big dumb stats in Runeterra, especially when they come to the board a little bit later. But yeah, something like Petrified Statue that can start boasting the stats on turn 3, even conditionally, can get pretty scary. And then the third statue in this deck is the Graveyard Statue. This is the 3-mana statue at 6/6, and this one has a different condition. If an ally died this round, then it temporarily comes to life. So these are basically, the idea is these are statues that are coming to life temporarily based on different things happening. This one's also really cool. I mean, this one is less reliable on its own, but can have some really crazy combos with like Shadow Isles being able to just like trigger deaths. And it's just like every single time you trigger a death, you can get like a discounted 6/6. It seems super insane, but again, when you're actually like playing out like how many turns this is going to be somewhat offline, it can be a really big liability, right? Like cheating out a 6/6 stat line super early sounds crazy, but there will be a lot of cases where you won't be able to actually make this not immobile before the combat of that turn or without playing another card or something like that. Although the permanent silences probably do take it a little too far. Like, for example, Galio's champ spell is Colossal Smash, which in this case is a 4-mana fast silence an allied follower. It strikes an enemy. And this is a good example of something that probably like breaks this a little bit too much, because the fact that it's like a permanent silence and you're getting like a free strike off is a little too powerful. So this is definitely something that would have to be either 5 mana or maybe a temporary silence. You know, seeing more of these silences being like lasting 1 turn could be kind of an interesting way to balance this. But basically that's the idea of this archetype. It's all about kind of like playing these statues that can come to life on their own, or you can silence them, which I guess effectively would make them come to life because they would lose immobile, right? You're silencing off that negative keyword, and you can do so with Colossal Smash, or you can do so with another card, Stone Masonry, the 2-mana burst, silence only an allied follower, which also creates a copy of it, or the third way, Anti-Magic Chains. It's actually another really cool design for a card. Slow mana removal spell at 5 mana, an allied follower captures an enemy. At the end of that round, the ally gets silenced. So basically, it's slow speed. So, you know, your opponent does have the ability to protect against it a bit. And in addition to that, if they remove your unit on that round, then they get their card back. But come round end, you're going to silence your own ally and their unit's going to be gone forever. And that's a really cool way of kind of like balancing this form of removal. Like if the opponent spends all their mana first, then you can punish them by capturing their unit and locking it away. But if they keep a little bit of mana open, they usually in most like competitive decks would have ways of being able to, you know, punish this, removing the unit, or, you know, interacting in some way. Pretty cool. Of course, Galio, once you've silenced 4+ allies, pretty tricky to do, but when he levels up, he gains tough, and for the rest of the game, allies are unaffected by ally negative keywords, and this means basically keywords that just they themselves have, so that's just basically immobile, can't block or attack, and ephemeral. Not anything like vulnerable that the opponents give you. Additionally, Galio's leveled gives your silenced allies +2/+2, and silenced enemies can't block. So if you want to run some, you know, self-silence, you give them the ability to not block, which is kind of a cool way to try to finish out games, right? Although this deck doesn't actually have too much access to silence enemies, only in the form of the final card, Mage Breaker, 4 mana 4/3, silence a follower. Really that simple. You can silence your own or you can silence opponents. Overall, I love the theming of the set. I love how they make Galio feel like, you know, the whole idea of like the statues that come to life. And I love that it's kind of like taking Demacia into a different direction while still staying true to their core concept. Like these cards still have synergy with cards like Single Combats and cards like Rally because they're very stat based. As I mentioned, power level on this is probably a bit high, but I'm okay with that because this is a design contest And overall, I'm a really big fan of how this whole set comes together. These different statues and the fact that they can all kind of temporarily gain immobile through different conditions. Graveyard statue being a more Shadow Isles card. And I love Petrified statue. The more I think about this, the more there's so many interesting options in terms of like forcing your opponent to use their spell mana to make this immobile again, or, you know, having to decide between keeping your spell mana or not, that make this a really interesting card. So there are your winners. If you guys want to participate in these and submit your own custom cards, well, join the Discord. I'll put it in the pinned comment for you guys to join up. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be running the third contest through my Discord. I might actually change the way I'm doing it a little bit, but I'll at least be announcing it through there, so that'll be the best bet. And actually mentioned, there's actually a 9th winner of this tournament, and so I'm going to leave you guys with the winner of the 9th category, Ionize, who won the best meme category with his submission, Undead Buddies. So Ionize submitted last time Undead Squad. Apparently this is some kind of sequel to this. Let's check this out. All right, Undead Buddies. So these are joke submissions. These are not real submissions. My last submission went absolutely unnoticed due to my lack of effort into designing a playable set together. As I still believe ephemerals need some love, I wrote up and designed my very own Undead Buddies set with a completely customized art, a fully fleshed out backstory, and love and care. I plan on reviving SI and making it the top tier region it has always been. All right, let's take a peek at these Undead Buddies. We've got Reginald, Greg, Sangard, Sang, Boris, and Doug. Apparently, we've also got an RVNG house and a Terry. All right, we've got a full set here this time. Reginald is a 1-mana 2/1 ephemeral. When I'm summoned, grant all Undead Buddies regeneration, and when it survives damage, it gains 2 attack. All right, so all your Undead Buddies are gonna have regen, and if they survive damage, this one will get plus attack. Oh god, he's got interactions. What the fuck? When played while Sangard is on board, he says, I am Reggie. When played while Sang is on board, he says, fuck you, Sang. Let's see what Sangard does. Sangard is the armorer. So Sangard is a 3-mana Undead Buddy. At the round start. All right, so like I knew it would give them useless keywords because they're ephemeral units. The round start got me. All right, round start is actually really funny. Round start, grant all ephemeral units in your hand tough and double attack. This is actually genius. When played or summoned when Sang is on the board, he says fuck you, Sang. All right, so they all have different voice lines, but they all just say fuck you, Sang. Next we've got Doug, the Destroyer. Now Doug is a 4-mana 1/5. When I first get double attack, remove my ephemeral. I can't be targeted by any spells. Wait, this is an actual card. Oh, but he can't get double attack. This is so genius because you can't flurry him. He looks really good. He looks like he can't be targeted by any spell, like enemy spells. He looks like he actually, this looks like it makes the thing a not meme until you realize that Sangard doesn't work on him because it's a round start and he can't be targeted by flurry. Wait, this is actually so well thought out. Fuck you, Sang. When he dies, guess I could have used a shield. Next, we've got Boris, the backliner. Oh, this is the tank of the group. I like it. Or wait, backliner. Never mind. He's got an anti-hush sign. When another ally dies, silence a random ephemeral unit in your deck. When attacking, peace and love and plants. Wait, why are you hitting me? Fuck off. When striking, nobody can kill Greg, not even you. This is so good. All right, then we've got Terrence. This one couldn't even be bothered to draw art for. Terrence was a little bitch when he was alive. So his ability is round start, create a fleeting copy of a random 3-cost Ionia card that starts with death. All right, why does everyone hate Sang? A 3-mana 3/3 support. If my supported ally is ephemeral, give it last breath, revive me this round. It only works during combat, so it revives after the combat and then it dies at the end of the round. Wait, this is so good. Oh, hey guys, what's up? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I wanted to record this little extra bit to let you guys know that I'm actually going to be streaming the expansion a day early on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/swimstream. If you happen to be watching this video within the first 8 or so hours that it got published on YouTube, then I'm probably live right now on twitch.tv/swimstream. So, head on over, say hi. Hope to see you guys there later.